Welcome back to Tyria, fellow hunters, adventurers, warriors, and most importantly at this time of the year, necromancers. Halloween's come to Tyria again this year, bringing with it Mad King Thorn and his realm in the mists. So, we're going to talk about it. Oh, and if you don't want to fall off the clock tower for like the 1000th time, hit like. As a warning, this video contains spoilers for the story of Guild Wars 2, and also some discussion of violence and abuse when we talk about King Thorn's history. Alright, let's get into it. Tyria is full of spooky stuff. Not just this time of year, but always. Haunted ruins filled with angry ghosts are all that remains of one of humanity's once great kingdoms. Wind whistles through the arches of long-abandoned dwarven mines. Spirits wander the halls, passing over paths they once walked in life. Or the Forgotten Kingdom rose from the waves, waking its deceased denizens from their slumber as Zaitan fueled their rise with dark power. And of course, you can't walk 10 feet without a necromancer resurrecting something. But this is a special time of year, when the skies over Tyria grow dark and strange doors open up across the world. When jack-o'-lanterns light the streets of Lion's Arch and a huge bubbling green cauldron appears in the Mystic Forge. This is the time of the shadow of the Mad King, and it's a time when necromancers can really flex their dark, fleshy wings and take in the spooky ambience. It's time to enter the realm of the Mad King. You can accept King Thorn's challenges and climb his crumbling clock tower, or run through his labyrinth filled with horrors and undead. You can win, or lose, a race through monster-infested territory. You can even play Mad King Says. There are treasures to be had, enemies to kill, and dangers to be faced. Beware though, the challenges of the Mad King's realm are not easily overcome. But first, who is King Thorn? Long ago, there were a number of human kingdoms in Tyria. Some have been destroyed or lost to invasion, while others still stand. See my video on the human kingdoms earlier in the playlist, link in the description. Among those that remain, Kryta has long been the center of human civilization, and while today its rulers are kind in spirit, measured in action, and oriented toward the cause of peace and prosperity, things were not always thus. The most notable ruler of Kryta before Queen Jenna's reign was King Jaden, a man of dubious moral quality. When the Char invaded, he fled the kingdom, making way for the disastrous invasion of the White Mantle, a story perhaps for another time. Even longer ago, King Doric ruled the kingdom with a more measured hand, and is said to have brought much peace to the realm. My point is that the history of the rulership of Kryta has not been ethically spotless. It is with this in mind that we come to discuss King Oswald Thorn, who ruled the kingdom sometime during the 9th century AE. In his youth, Prince Oswald was fond of pranks, causing havoc among the royal court with his antics. It is worth mentioning now that he was a contemporary of the then still alive Paolo Joko, who was around his age at the time. This will become significant later in the tale. It was also around this period that the legendary and destructive rivalry between the two began, one which still plays out to this day, though both have long passed into the realm of the mists. As I implied earlier, in Tyria, death is often rather a temporary state of affairs. Young Prince Thorn's pranks escalated in severity quickly, and soon he was responsible for several deaths, including 2 royal children. He was not fazed by these developments and would only continue his reign of terror, eventually assassinating his older brother, his father, and his father's lover. Rather than face repercussions, it was these vile acts that paved the way for Prince Oswald Thorn to become King Oswald Thorn. He immediately had his political rivals executed and punished. His rulership was no less brutal. He failed to secure treaties with the Centaur tribes, prolonging the war which still rages across Kryta today. War tightened the kingdom's purse strings such that when drought and famine struck, the people were unable to produce enough food to sustain them through the difficult times. King Thorn enacted brutal policies designed to punish what he called thieves and to terrorize the people, an act designed to curtail rebellion. His policies abroad were no less vile, kidnapping and eventually murdering the daughter of a Vabian noble. The resulting war with Istan was disastrous, though Kryta prevailed, sort of. Oswald Thorn was brutal in his personal life as well, torturing and killing his wives in ways I won't discuss here. It was with one of these women that he would go on to have a son named Edric Thorn, who quite sadly failed to overthrow his father, though not for lack of trying. Although the rule of the bloody Edric Thorn would likely not have been any less brutal. King Thorn then had Prince Edric's mouth stuffed with candy corn and placed his son in an enchanted coffin called the Shell of Insanity, designed to drain the life force of those within. Of course, King Thorn also had the man who enchanted the device killed to hide all traces of his son's existence. That's the story anyway, honestly, it might just have been out of sheer chaos. Thankfully, his reign was finally ended when the people of Krita rose up against him and a group of citizens stormed Castle Thorn. The king was killed, and so wary of his possible return were the people of Krita that they cut him up and placed each piece of his body in enchanted caskets to be scattered about the world. Tyria would breathe a sigh of relief, though that was not the end for Oswald Thorn. It was the end of his time as king, well, king of Krita anyway, and that was cause enough for celebration. After his death, Oswald Thorn went, as most of us will, into the mists, to the underworld where the dead reside. Though some change in this place, he remained as stubborn and evil as ever. Gathering power, he managed to conquer a piece of territory which he named the Mad Realm and very much changed its shape and character to match his own. The Mad Realm is a place of terror, death, evil, and fear, where the undead freely roam and the living are set upon by armies of vile creatures and demons. The king is attended by the lunatic court, made up of many beings, not all of whom exist solely in the mists. It's their goal to break the magical seals, which keep the Mad King Thorn from returning permanently to Tyria. Queen Salma's rise to the throne of Krita long ago broke one of these seals, and with this, the lunatic court set out to break the rest. Their efforts were for naught, though, as the rituals they enacted succeeding in releasing only the soul of Mad King Thorn's faithful pet, Mr. Gumdrops, an invisible pony. It was 200 years later that Mad King Thorn would return to Tyria, breaking through in Lion's Arch. His victory would be short-lived as adventurers from Tyria traveled into the Mad Realm to defeat him at his own games. A year later, deep within Nolani Academy in the Black Citadel, an artifact was discovered. This was the once-forgotten shell of insanity. Within, the spirit of the bloody prince, Edric Thorn, was eventually defeated, though not before making war on his father's realm. With the defeat of Thorn's nemesis, the Lich Palawa Joko, denizens of Tyria sought to fool the Mad King into thinking that he had not truly been killed. This to preserve the world from his inevitable fit of rage, should he learn that his rival had been killed by someone other than himself. Eventually, an apparition would appear in the Mad Realm, opposite the Mad King himself. This was the spirit of Palawa Joko. It remains there to this day, bantering back and forth with Thorn, keeping him entertained, so the story goes. Whether this is the real spirit of Joko or just an illusion is not known for certain, but it now stands where the spirit of Prince Edric Thorn once stood, a fact that seems to bother the prince. The Mad Realm is a place cut off from the mortal world, but for one time of the year, Halloween, when the veil thins and doors to the Mad Realm open across Tyria. It happens once a year. The skies grow dark and night falls where once the sun shone. Bubbling cauldrons and strange spirits arise to walk the land. Elementals made from candy corn can be found in and out of the Mad Realm, which at this time of year, and this time only, is accessible to the people of Tyria. Why would anyone living and sane go there? There are many reasons. For one thing, there's all the treasure. See, among the many places to visit that I will discuss in more detail shortly, there's the Labyrinth, a maze of stone and earth filled with monsters of all kinds. Heroes from Tyria make their way into the labyrinth to fight their way through and claim the many magically enchanted trick-or-treat bags that can be found within. These are filled with treasures and resources, though they can also be sold for a decent profit if one is so inclined. And of course, there's no shortage of skeletons and other creatures to defeat, leading the warriors of the living realm to come here to test themselves. Tyrians can also test themselves by climbing the Mad King's clock tower, a difficult puzzle that often kills those who attempt it. More on that soon as well. There are races as well for those who like to test themselves and their mounts at trials of speed. Rewards for these events are highly valued. Why do Tyrians venture into the Mad Realm? For the same reason they venture into the teeth of danger at the drop of a hat. Money, adventure, and the cause of fighting threats to their homeland. As I mentioned earlier, there's the Labyrinth. A square maze of stone corridors twisting this way and that through the mist-shrouded lands of the Mad Realm. There are several ways to get there, either through the use of enchanted items such as those that lead one to seasonal events, or by invitations which might come in the mail. I also mentioned before that mysterious doors pop up across the world. These lead into the Mad Realm. One will find themselves on a promontory overlooking the labyrinth. Leaping in will put you in the thick of the fight, facing scores of enemies. The passages are filled with monsters such as skeletons, gargoyles, candy corn elementals, glowing skeletons, mummies, plastic spiders, rebel lunatics, and, of course, several creatures of immense power. The hollowed gourd binder is a challenging enemy appearing in one section of the labyrinth, while the labyrinthine horror, a massive skeleton with a chainsword, will appear in various places and take a concerted effort of many heroes to defeat. Many more of the strange doors also appear there, and opening them will reveal more foes to defeat. Stronger than the enemies that appear normally within the labyrinth, they take a bit more work to fight. One can also find pumpkins in piles in the various corners of the maze. Carving these into scary jack-o'-lanterns is worthy of some recognition. They also appear in many places throughout Tyria for those who don't feel like venturing into the mists for some Halloween fun. These are ways of getting achievements. For those looking to spot a friendly face, Mrs. Cookie wanders the labyrinth. She's a cat made of candy corn to whom you can give more candy corn in exchange for a blessing. You can get candy corn from fighting any of the many candy corn elementals within the labyrinth, or mining it from deposits around the world. Of course, no festival is complete without Drubert's ghost. I may go further into Drubert's story in one of these tellings, but not today. He does accept candy corn, as he often accepts a seasonal currency for something, or nothing really. Either way, the labyrinth is not the only place to experience the madness of the Mad Realm, though. Outside each capital city in Tyria, around the time of Halloween, a figure stands ready, waiting for challengers to approach. The lunatic boatmaster will offer passage to the Mad Realm, and in particular to a place known as the Mad King's Clock Tower. The grim, fanged maw of the maddened moon stares down as you approach. A tower rises high before you, mist swirling around it. Gears and hands and broken stones spin and swirl in the air. It looks as if you might be able to leap from one to another, though you'll have to time your jumps correctly. From here, it appears that you can, in this fashion, make it to the clock face, and you just know there's going to be some good treasure up there. Of course, the whole thing is timed, and the course is difficult. It is possibly the longest and most convoluted jumping puzzle that at least I've ever encountered, and I have to admit, never completed. For those who reach the end, there is treasure waiting, and some along the way to keep you going in case you feel a little slow on the way up. I won't give the instructions here, and anyway, as I've said, I never managed to complete the puzzle, so I wouldn't take my advice on the matter. But there are many Halloween veterans who will likely walk you through. Remember, this is the Mad Realm. Nothing makes sense here. Don't think logically. Think like a Mad King with a pumpkin for a head. The other major section of the Mad Realm to visit is the Mad King's Raceway. This is a place where races and fights take place, though it can only be accessed on Halloween. The lunatic boatman will take you there, and you can engage in the mount races. There are 3 separate ones to take part in. Speaking to the lunatic boatman about the Reaper's Rumble will also take you to this location, though the event is very different. You and your team will have to destroy the opposing team's mausoleum by first defeating their guardians and surviving attacks from opposing team members. Within the Mad Realm, you can also take part in the Lunatic Inquisition. Talk to the lunatic boatman and he'll send you there too. You'll either be selected as a villager or courier and must either survive or convert others if you're the courier. There are tools there to help you. If you're less inclined to fighting or climbing, you can always head to the Grand Piazza in Lion's Arch for a game of Mad King Says. King Thorn will appear from time to time and lead a group in a series of movements and gestures. If followed properly, you'll receive a fragment of the key that opens the Mad King's chest. With 4 of the fragments, you can open it for a chance to get some good loot. And of course, if you want a fun surprise, head over to the Mystic Forge, which at this time of the year takes the form of a giant cauldron filled with something green and swirly. Leap inside, and when it spits you out, you'll be wearing a costume brawl costume. Have fun causing some chaos. At Halloween time, Tyria comes together to remember fallen friends, sometimes, resurrecting them for a chat, and to prevent some evil from taking over the world. Again, the loot and the fighting and the puzzles and achievements are all great, but really, to me, it's all about the feeling. People running around in costumes, hitting one another with plastic swords, fighting giant skeletons with groups of adventurers, and letting the spooky vibes loose. It's a time when a necromancer can finally feel at home in a world generally tailored to the living, mostly. Enjoy the parties and the snacks and the scares, the brawling and the puzzles. Oh, and don't forget, sell those trick-or-treat bags at the trading post. Seriously, do it. It's worth it.
Well, that was spooky, wasn't it? I want to thank you all for watching, especially if you made it to the end. If you liked the video, please hit like, and if you really liked the video, hit subscribe. Let's share some spooky stories in the comments down below. Oh, and before you go, I'm going to give a shout out to my patrons. Our $10 patrons Watuki at the artisan level. If you want to get your name in the credits and some access to a few extra videos, head on over to the link in the description. And remember, don't argue with a necromancer. They're always bringing up the past. Alright, happy Halloween. Bye, Internet.